Conviction to preserve self-control. Proverbs 20, verse 1 says, wine produces mockers, alcohol leads to brawls, and those who are led astray by drink cannot be wise. Now, if you are serious about looking through the Bible, you will find that the Bible doesn't necessarily condemn drinking wine or even beer or the type of alcohol they had back then. But the type of alcohol they had back then was not as potent as the stuff they make today. The hard liquor, or what are these hard teas or hard lemonades and all these things that are confusing. But nonetheless, so it doesn't necessarily condemn that. You remember Jesus turned the water into wine, but Bible scholars say that there was water added. It wasn't like the type of wine that would get you drunk. You'd have to drink a lot of it. And so the only part in the Bible where anybody is forbidden from drinking alcohol is if you took a Nazirite vow. And Jesus wasn't a Nazirite. He was a Nazarene because he was from the town of Nazareth. So again, the Bible doesn't necessarily forbid drinking, but it doesn't say it's a great idea. Basically, it says things like, it's not fit for kings to drink much wine, but I think in Ecclesiastes it says, give beer to those who are perishing. So how are you living your life? Are you perishing, or do you want to live like a king? And in 1 Corinthians chapter 8, verses 9 through 13, it talks about how you shouldn't do things that would cause a weaker brother to stumble. So if your drinking alcohol causes someone else around you to fall back into a life of sin and addiction, that's not good. God wouldn't be pleased with that. So anything that takes control of your mind, your judgment, or your behavior is dangerous because God intends for him alone to rule your life. So here's how Solomon doesn't just say don't drink. He's like, okay, so wine produces mockers. Alcohol leads to brawls, and those led astray cannot be wise. I mean, think about people that are driving while they're intoxicated and how much that costs in those tickets and fees and everything else. The thing that is required to blow into to start your ignition and everything. My neighbor had one of those where I used to live. But alcohol leads to violence and assault, domestic abuse, drunk driving crashes, broken families, crime and disorderly conduct, poor judgment and reckless decisions, addiction and dependency, serious physical health problems, and even premature death. Solomon's calling this out 3,000 years ago and saying, guys, sons, even sons and daughters, beware of the wine, beware of the alcohol. And today we could throw in there, beware of the drugs, beware of the legalized drugs and the gummies and whatever else. There's just so many things that can cause you to lose your inhibition, to say things you wouldn't say, to do things you wouldn't do, to wake up in the morning and wonder what you did. And that's kind of what Solomon talks about here. But as believers, we're supposed to be led by the Spirit, not led by alcohol. So again, in Proverbs 23, you would have read this. Who has anguish? Who has sorrow? Who is always fighting? Who is always complaining? Who has unnecessary bruises? Who has bloodshot eyes? It is the one who spends long hours in the taverns trying out new drinks. Alcohol can seem like it is freeing. It helps you after a stressful day. It helps you to unwind. Sometimes it seems like things are more fun and all of these things, but it leads down a dark path, leads to sorrow. Some people are angry drunks. They're always fighting. Some people, when they get drunk, they just talk too much and they're annoying. Often they get hurt and they don't know how, or sometimes they get beat up and they don't know, or abused and they don't know who or why. Their body starts to fall apart, explaining the bloodshot eyes. And so it is another warning against that. Solomon continues, don't gaze at the wine, seeing how red it is, how it sparkles in the cup, and how smoothly it goes down, for in the end it bites like a poisonous snake. It stings like a viper. So years ago when I lived here on the Iron Range before, there was a guy who was told if he drank again, he was going back to jail. And I was trying to disciple him, and he was coming to Bible study and everything, and he could only ride his bicycle, so I could easily find him. And sometimes he would backslide, and I'd go find him in the bar, and I'd walk into the bar, and he'd come out with me, and he'd repent, and it was good and everything. And so, but one time I found him, the last time I talked to him, and he was in the bar, and he was staring at his beer like he was amorously in love with it. He's like, I don't care what you say, Pastor, I'm not coming out. And that was the last time I saw him. But it leads to destruction. It leads to addiction. It leads to a point where you think you're using it, but eventually you find out that it's using you, and you are addicted. And that is a terrible thing. And whatever we can do as believers to help people get out of that, that can be a good thing. Verse 33, Proverbs 23:33. Again, more about drinking. You will see hallucinations. You will say crazy things. You will stagger like a sailor tossed at sea, clinging to a swaying mast. And you will say, they hit me, but I didn't feel it. I didn't even know it when they beat me up. When will I wake up so I can look for another drink? That is one of the saddest verses in the Bible that talk about addiction. People are addicted to a lot of different things, but so many times there's the regret. Sometimes there's the hangover. There's the regret. There's the sadness. There's the, oh, I shouldn't do this. And then it flips around in addiction to, let's do it again. Let me find another drink. Let me find another pill or whatever it is that you are addicted to. I like the old saying that sin always promises more than it can deliver and always costs more than we expected to pay. Solomon says the person pursuing alcohol eventually finds anguish instead of happiness, sorrow instead of joy, and regret instead of wisdom. So you never know when someone's drunk what they're going to remember the next day. So I knew a guy that lived in where I used to live, lived in town, and his wife called me, and she's like, hey, my husband's drunk again, and right now he's on the roof of the house yelling at people, throwing beer bottles at them. Can you come over? So I came over and got him off the roof, came down. We talked for a bit. He was really sad and regretful about it. And I thought the next day he wouldn't remember any of it. But he did remember it, and we got him to go to Teen Challenge, and he was able to get control over his addiction, and it was good. It was good. So interestingly enough, he chose to go to another church instead of mine because I knew too much. But on the other hand, it was good, and there was one time when he fell off the wagon when his wife was out of town, and he called me. He's like, can you come help me? Can you come get me? And I did. So maybe I was his 2 a.m. friend. I was no longer his pastor, but I was someone he could call when he needed help. And maybe you could be somebody like that. But yeah, if you can get people into Teen Challenge, that can be really helpful.